Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a 2022 American absurdist comedy drama film written and directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, collectively known as Daniels, who produced it with Anthony and Joe Russo. The plot centers on a Chinese-American immigrant played by Michelle Yeoh who, while being audited by the IRS, discovers that she must connect with parallel universe versions of herself to prevent a powerful being from destroying the multiverse. Stephanie Hsu, Ki Kwan, Jenny Slate, Harry Shum Jr., James Hong, and Jamie Lee Curtis appear in supporting roles. The New York Times called the film a swirl of genre anarchy with elements of surreal comedy, science fiction, fantasy, martial arts films, and animation film by Daniel Squin, and Scheinert began writing the screenplay in 2016 for Jackie Chan, but later reworked the lead role and offered it to Yeoh. Principal photography ran from January to March 2020. The film's soundtrack features music composed by Sun Lux, including collaborations with musicians Mitski, David Byrne, Andrew 3000, and Randy Newman. Everything Everywhere All at Once premiered at South by Southwest on March 11, 2022, and began a limited theatrical release in the United States on March 25, 2022, before a wide release on April 8, 2022. It was a commercial success and grossed over $103 million worldwide, becoming his first film to cross the $100 million mark and surpassing Hereditary 2018 as its highest-grossing film. The film has received universal acclaim for its imagination, visual effects, costume design, humor, direction, editing, and handling of themes such as existentialism, generational trauma, nihilism, absurdism, and Asian American identity. The performances, particularly Yeoh, Kwan, Hsu, and Curtis, have also received ubiquitous praise, with many critics calling them among the best of the year. The movie's accolades include being named a Top 10 Film of 2022 by the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute, 2 Golden Globes for Yeoh and Kwan at the 80th Golden Globe Awards from 6 nominations, including Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy and Best Director, a leading 14 nominations at the 28th Critics' Choice Awards, including Best Picture, and 5 nominations at the 29th Screen Actors Guild Awards, including acting nominations for Yeoh, Kwan, Hsu, and Curtis. In China, Evelyn Kwan Wang falls in love with Waymond Wang and, against her father's objections, elopes to the United States. The couple opens a laundromat and has a daughter, Joy. Years later, the laundromat is being audited by the IRS. Concurrently, Waymond is trying to serve Evelyn divorce papers. Evelyn's demanding father, Gong Gong, is visiting for a Chinese New Year party prepared by her, and Joy wants her mother to accept her non-Chinese girlfriend Becky, about whom Evelyn lies to Gong Gong at a fractious meeting with IRS Inspector Deirdre B. Berger. Waymond's body is briefly taken over by Alpha Waymond, a version of Waymond from the Alphaverse. Alpha Waymond explains to Evelyn that many parallel universes exist because every life choice creates a new alternate universe. The Alphaverse, led by the late Alpha Evelyn, developed verse-jumping technology which enables people to access the skills, memories, and bodies of their parallel universe selves by performing bizarre actions that are statistically unlikely. The multiverse is now threatened by Jobu Tupaki, the Alphaverse version of Joy, whose mind was splintered after Alpha Evelyn pushed her to extensively verse jump. Jobu now experiences all universes at once and can verse jump and manipulate matter at will. She has created a black hole-like everything bagel that threatens the multiverse. Evelyn is given verse-jumping technology to fight Jobu's verse-jumping minions, who are now converging on the IRS building. She discovers other universes where she made different choices apart from going off with Waymond and flourished, such as becoming a kung fu master or movie star, while also learning of Waymond's plans for divorce. Alpha Waymond believes Evelyn, as the greatest failure of all Evelyns in the multiverse, has the untapped potential to defeat Jobu. Alpha Gong Gong, controlling Evelyn's Gong Gong, instructs her to kill Joy to stop Jobu from entering her universe again through her. But Evelyn instead decides to face Jobu by gaining powers through repeated verse jumping. While Evelyn is chased by Alpha Gong Gong's soldiers, Jobu locates and kills Alpha Waymond in the Alphaverse. As Jobu confronts Evelyn, Evelyn's mind finally splinters. Just as Jobus has Evelyn's detached consciousness begins to verse jump with Jobus across bizarre and diverse universes. Rather than fight, Jobu explains that she has been searching for an Evelyn who can come to believe, as she does, that nothing matters. She brings Evelyn to the everything bagel, explaining that she hopes it can allow her to finally die. Upon peering into the bagel, Evelyn is persuaded and begins to act nihilistically in the other universes, emotionally hurting those around her. Evelyn is about to enter the bagel with Jobu and all her multiverse lives, but pauses to listen to Wayman's pleas for everybody to stop fighting and be kind and seek understanding in the midst of confusion. Evelyn has an epiphany and follows his advice by using her multiverse powers to find what is hurting those around her and bring them happiness. In doing so, she repairs her damage in the other universes and neutralizes Alpha Gong Gong and Jobus biters. In her home universe, Evelyn tells Gong Gong of Joy and Becky's relationship, talks with Deirdre after Wayman convinces her to let them redo their taxes, and reconciles with Wayman. Jobu tries to end her life by entering the bagel while simultaneously as Joy in Evelyn's universe begs Evelyn to let her go. Evelyn says that even if she could be anywhere else, even when nothing makes sense, she would always want to be with Joy. Evelyn and the others save Jobu from the bagel, and Evelyn and Joy embrace some time later. With the family's relationships improved, Evelyn and her family return to the IRS building to refile their taxes. As Deirdre talks, Evelyn's attention is momentarily drawn to her alternate selves and the multiverse before she grounds herself back in her home universe. Cast: Clockwise Everything Everywhere All at Once stars Michelle Yeoh, Ki Kwan, Jamie Lee Curtis, and James Hong. Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn Kwan Wang, a dissatisfied and overwhelmed laundromat owner, and as several other versions of Evelyn in alternate universes. Stephanie Hsu as Joy Wang, Evelyn's daughter, and Jobu Tupaki, Alpha Evelyn's omnicidal daughter and a godly, colorful threat to the multiverse. Ki Kwan as Wayman Wang, Evelyn's meek husband whose benevolence comes off as Navit, Alpha Wayman, from the Alphaverse, and other versions of Wayman in alternate universes. James Hong as Gong Gong Chang's maternal grandfather, Evelyn's demanding father, and Alpha Gong Gong, Alpha Evelyn's father in the Alphaverse. Jamie Lee Curtis as Deirdre B. Berger, an IRS inspector, and as several other versions of Deirdre in alternate universes. Jenny Slate as Debbie the dog mom, a laundromat customer. Harry Shum Jr. as Chad, a teppanyaki chef working alongside an alternative Evelyn in another universe. Settley Metal as Becky Sreger, Joy's girlfriend. Additionally, Biff Whiff appears as Rick, a laundromat customer. Senator Monty and Aaron Laser appear as actors in a musical film Evelyn watches. Audrey Vasilevsky and Peter Banafas appear as Alpha RV officers. Daniel Scheinert appears as district manager. Andy La and Brian La appear as Alpha trophy jumpers, and Michiko Nishiwiki appears as Evelyn's kung fu opponent. And Costa Randy Newman, who has scored 9 Disney Pixar films, appears in an uncredited role as the voice of Ratatouille, a reference to the Pixar animated film Ratatouille 2007. He is credited as a featured artist on the track Now We Are Cookin'. Dan Kwan has uncredited cameos as a man sucked into the bagel, and among writer-directors Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan. Co-directors Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert began researching the concept of the multiverse as early as 2010, after being exposed to the concept of modal realism in the documentary Sherman's March 1986. Kwan described the release of the animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2018, which also deals with a multiversal concept, as a little upsetting because we were like, oh shit, everyone's going to beat us to this thing we've been working on. He also stated, watching the second season of Rick and Morty was really painful. I was like, they've already done all ideas we thought were original. It was a really frustrating experience. So I stopped watching Rick and Morty while we were writing this project and early drafts of the screenplay. The directors planned for the main character to have undiagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder (ADHD). Through his research for the project, Kwan learned that he himself had undiagnosed ADSense, in which Evelyn trains in martial arts and becomes an action film star, were visually and contextually inspired by the films of Wong Kar-wai. Chris Lee of Vulture writes that they conjure a mood of exquisite romantic yearning that will be instantly recognizable. as textons of Wang's works. The universe in which Evelyn and Joya rocks was influenced by the children's book Sylvester and the Magic Pebble 1969 and the video game Everything 2017. Kwan has said the idea of the Everything bagel started as just a throwaway joke. Scheinert said they spent time attempting to develop the religion of bagel followers, but encountered complications. As a nihilist, should there be dogma? Should there be a book? What should their practices be as a religion? The bagel stuck because it became such a useful, simple symbol that we could point to as filmmakers. And you don't have to explain it much beyond the Jokai Everything Everywhere All at Once marked Kwan's pictured in 2018 return to acting since his retirement. An Earth script was written for Jackie Chan until Kwan and Scheinert reconciled the protagonist as a woman, feeling it would make the husband-wife dynamic in the story more relatable. The new script's lead character was initially named Michelle Wang, according to Michelle Yeoh, who said, "If you ask the Daniels, when they started on this draft, they focused on, well, we are doing this for Michelle Yeoh." The character's name was eventually changed to Evelyn, despite the parallels between herself and the universe in which Evelyn is a martial artist and film star. Yeoh opposed naming the character Michelle. Evelyn deserves her own story to be told. This is a very ordinary mother housewife who is trying her best to be a good mother to her daughter, a good daughter to her father, a wife that's trying to keep the family together. She said, "I don't like to integrate me, Michelle Yeoh, into the characters that I play, because they all deserve their own journey and their stories to be told." It was announced in August 2018 that Yeoh and Awkwafina had been cast to star in what was described as an interdimensional action film from Kwan and Scheinert, with Anthony and Joe Russo attached to produce. Awkwafina left the project in January 2020 due to scheduling conflicts, and was replaced by Stephanie Hsu. James Hong, Kwan, and Jamie Lee Curtis joined the cast. It marked Kwan's return to film acting, from which he had retired in 2002 due to a lack of casting opportunities. Kwan and Scheinert were inspired to cast Kwan after seeing a meme of politician Andrew Yang being shown as short round having grown up. They were curious to learn what Kwan had been up to and learned that he was the right age of Waymond. Coincidentally, Kwan had decided to return to acting around the same time frame before he was approached for the role. Kwan's former The Goonies 1985 co-star Jeff Cohen served as his lawyer to negotiate his deal for the film. A principal photography began in January 2020, with it announcing that it would finance and distribute the film. Shooting took 38 days, mostly in Simi Valley, California. The Daniels said the film's kung fu fight scenes were shot unusually quickly. For example, the fanny pack fight was shot in a day and a half. Filming wrapped in early March 2020 during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. Themes. Everything Everywhere All at Once incorporates elements from a number of genres and film mediums, including absurdist comedy, science fiction, fantasy, martial arts films, and animation. A.O. Scott of the New York Times described the film as a swirl of genre anarchy, explaining that while the hectic action sequences and flights of science fiction mumbo-jumbo are a big part of the fun and the marketing, they aren't really the point. A bittersweet domestic drama, a marital comedy, a story of immigrants striving, and a hurt-filled ballad of mother-daughter love. The film explores the concepts of the meaning of life and nihilism. According to Charles Bramisco of The Guardian, the bagel of doom and its tightening grip on Evelyn's daughter lend themselves to the climactic declaration that there's nothing worse than submitting to the nihilism so trendy with the next generation. Our lone hope of recourse is to embrace all the love and beauty surrounding us, if only we are present enough to see it. This nihilism is also incorporated into the film's exploration of Asian American identity. And Anlin Cheng wrote in the Washington Post, "It's not only that the multiverse acts as a metaphor for the immigrant Asian American experience, or a convenient parable for the dislocations and personality splits suffered by hyphenated, that is, Asian American citizens. It also becomes a rather heady vehicle for confronting and negotiating Asian pessimism, a term she uses in reference to Afro-pessimism. A consequence." Clint Worthington wrote that for all its daddyst absurdism and blink if you miss it pace, Daniels weaves the chaotic possibilities into a multiverse into a cohesive story about the aches and pains of the road not traveled and the need to carve out your own meaning in a meaningless universe. Describing Jobu Tupaki's modus operandi, Worthington notes the living contradiction that is the everything bagel. If you put everything on a bagel, what more is left? And if you've experienced everything that the multiverse can offer, what's the point of any of it? Guan said that the everything bagel concept did two things. It allowed us to talk about nihilism without being too eye-roll why, and it creates a MacGuffin, a doomsday device. If in the first half of the movie, people think that the bagel is here to destroy the world, and in the second half you realize it's a depressed person trying to destroy themselves, it just takes everything about action movies and turns it into something more personal. Film engages textually and metatextually with the real world of the viewer. Critics have noted that one version of Evelyn, a famous martial arts movie star, is a portrayal of Io herself, that Ke Quan's experience as a stunt coordinator is used didactically in Wayman's fight scenes, and that James Hong's transformation into a more sinister, English-fluent, Machiavellian strategist parallels his character Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China 1986. Music. Main article, Everything Everywhere All at Once soundtrack. Experimental band Sunlux composed the film's score. The musical score was composed by Sunlux, whose members are Ryan Lott, Ian Chang, and Rafik Basha. Daniels asked them to approach the score individually and not as a band. Lott said, "I think that the complete picture of not only who we are as a band, but also who we are as individuals and what we have accomplished and the places we've gone creatively individually, meant for them that there was a possibility that many of these universes of sound could be within reach with this particular trio." Sunlux took 2 to 3 years to compose the score, which includes more than 100 musical cues. The soundtrack album consists of 49 tracks and runs for more than 2 hours. It features several prominent musicians, including Mitski, David Byrne, a flute-playing Ender 3000, Randy Newman, Moses Sumney, Hanel Pivnik, and Imusik. 2 songs, This Is a Life featuring Mitski and Byrne and Fence featuring Sumney, were released as singles on March 4 and 14, 2022. The album was released on March 25 to positive critical response. The film features several instances, both in audio and in dialogue, of the 2009 Days song Absolutely Story of a Girl, when Daniels reached out to 9 Days vocalist John Hampson about using the song. Hampson enthusiastically agreed to record 3 alternate versions of the song for use in the film. Everything Everywhere All at Once had its world premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival on March 11, 2022. It had a limited release in theaters on March 25, 2022, followed by a nationwide release on April 8 in the United States on March 30, 2022. The film was released in select IMAX theaters in the U.S. for one night only. Due to its popularity, the film returned to select IMAX theaters for 1 week starting on April 29, 2022. The film was not released in most parts of the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, due to censorship of LGBT issues in those countries. The film was released in the United Kingdom on May 13, 2022. The film was scheduled to be re-released in U.S. theaters on July 29, 2022, unchanged but adding an introduction by the Daniels and 8 minutes of outtakes after the credits. The film was released on digital streaming platforms on June 7, 2022, and was released on Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultra HD Blu-ray on July 5, 2022, by Lionsgate Home Entertainment. Everything Everywhere All at Once has grossed $70 million in the United States and Canada and $33.50 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $103.50 million in the United States and Canada. The film earned $509,600 from 10 venues in its opening weekend. Its debut had a theater average of $50,965, the second best since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic for a platform release, behind Licorice Pizza, and the then best opening theater average in 2022. In its second weekend, the film grossed $1.10 million from 38 theaters, finishing 9th at the box office. It received a wide expansion in its third weekend, going from 38 to 1,250 theaters. It made $6.10 million, finishing 6th at the box office, playing in 2,200 220 theaters the following weekend, it earned $6.20 million, finishing fourth. In its sixth weekend, it added $5.50 million, part of which was attributed to a wider IMAX release following its successful box office run up to that point. It added $3.50 million in its seventh weekend, and another $3.30 million in its eighth. By May 21, it had made over $51 million, surpassing Uncut Gems' $50 million as its highest-grossing film domestically. By June 9, it had made over $80 million, surpassing Hereditary's $79 million as its highest-grossing film of all time. It remained in the box office top 10 before dropping out in its 16th weekend, ending on July 10. The film crossed the $100 million mark worldwide on July 31, making it the first independent film released during the pandemic and in its history to do so outside of the United States. Other top-earning territories as of July 31 were the United Kingdom $6.20 million, Canada $5.10 million, Australia $4.50 million, Russia $2.40 million, Taiwan $2.30 million, Mexico $2 million, Hong Kong $1.70 million, Germany $1.50 million, and the Netherlands $1.10 million. Michelle Yeoh garnered universal acclaim for her performance in the film, with many reviewers calling it the best of her career. In the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of % based on 349 reviews, with an average rating of. The website's consensus reads, led by an outstanding Michelle Yeoh, Everything Everywhere All at Once lives up to its title with an expertly calibrated assault on the senses. On August 26, 2022, Rotten Tomatoes users voted Everything Everywhere All at Once as its best film of all time in their showdown. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 81 out of 100, based on 54 critics, indicating universal acclaim. Audiences polled by Postrack gave it an I% positive score, with I% saying that they would definitely recommend it. David Ehrlich of IndieWorld called the film an orgiastic work of slap-happy genius, praising the direction and performances, particularly Yu's. The Hollywood Reporter's David Rooney called it a frenetically plotted serve of stoner heaven, is instantly imaginative and often a lot of fun, complimenting the cast and score, but found the handling of the story's underlying theme underwhelming. In her review for Rober.com, Maria E. Gates lauded Yu's performance, writing, Yeoh is the anchor of the film, given a role that showcases her wide range of talents, from her fine martial arts skills to her superb comic timing to her ability to excavate endless depths of rich human emotion, often just from a glance or reaction. Charles Bramespel, writing for The Guardian, praised the Daniels for constructing a large, elaborate, polished and detailed expression of a vision. Amy Nicholson of the Wall Street Journal wrote, over its nearly 2.5-hour running time, the movie's ambitions double and double again, as though it's a petri dish teeming with Mr. Kwan and Mr. Scheinert's wildest ideas. In her review for Vanity Fair, Maureen Ryan highlighted Yu's performance, writing, Yeoh imbues Evelyn with moving shades of melancholy, regret, resolve and growing curiosity, and adding that she makes her embrace of lead character energy positively gripping. Adam Naiman of The Ringer referred to the film as a love letter to Yeoh, adding, Everything Everywhere All at Once is extremely poignant, giving its 59-year-old star a chance to flex unexpected acting muscles while revisiting the high-flying fight choreography that made her a global icon back in the ers. In his review for Chicago Sun-Times, Jake Coyle wrote that although Everything Everywhere can verge on overload, it's this liberating sense of limitless possibility that the movie leaves you filled with, both in its freewheeling anything-goes playfulness and in its surprisingly tender portrait of existential despair. Dissenting reviews include those of Richard Brody for The New Yorker, who dismissed Everything Everywhere as a sickly, cynical feature-length directorial pitch reel for a Marvel movie, and Keith Garlington, who noted that while the film was an ambitious task, it often gives way to overindulgence, making this overlong and overstuffed genre stew a well-meaning but exhausting experience. Letterboxd announced that Everything Everywhere All at Once had briefly become the highest-rated film of all time on the site, surpassing The Godfather 1972 and Parasite 2019. As of December 2022, it remains in the top 15. The New York Times named character Jobu Tupaki played by Shu, one of the 93 most stylish people of Ermain article, list of accolades received by Everything Everywhere All and Everything Everywhere All at Once was nominated for 14 Critics' Choice Movie Awards and 6 Golden Globe Awards, winning 2. It was named one of the top 10 films of 2022 by the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute.